Okay, good, right? And then let me share this screen with you guys. This one. All right, can you guys all see Jamovi now, a data set? Okay, great. Let me make you guys a little bigger just in case anybody else can see you. Okay. Right, so where we stopped the last time was, right, you guys got a chance to practice with that self-efficacy measure, right? There's 10 items. You got a chance to recode, reverse code some stuff so that, right, higher scores all reflect higher levels of something. And then after doing that, computing a total score. In this case, we did that mean score, right? And then also ran the scale reliability analysis so that you guys could see, right, overall, like how well do those 10 items kind of hang together, maybe get at the same kind of overall construct like self-efficacy. And then also whether there are any individual items in there that maybe were throwing off the scale reliability, right? So we checked that box that said, please tell me what the scale reliability looks like if you delete one of these items. And so now we're gonna take that next step and like look at a couple of examples of ones where the scale reliability looks a little wonky, and then we have to make decisions about like what to do about it, right? Do we like delete an item? Do we, right, recode an item? That kind of stuff. So there's two examples I'll show you. And this is from a different database that we're actually working with right now. And so there's the first variable is a school engagement measure. And so, right, you can imagine questions like something like this, right? The school engagement one is, I try hard to do well in school, right? And then right here, the levels. This case, nobody answered 1, but 2 is a little different for me. 3 is a little like me, right? 4 is a lot like me. And already, hopefully, as you read these things, you're thinking, all right, 4 is the a lot like me. It looks like this one, I try hard to do well in school. If it's a 4, this one seems to be scaled in a way where we probably won't need to recode anything, right? Like sort of if you answer a lot like me, the higher ones, right? The higher score looks like it's higher levels of school engagement. There's a question like this: when I'm in class, I participate in class discussions. I'll just read a couple of these. I try to pay attention in class, right? All different kinds of like engagement kinds of questions. And there's 10 of them. And this actually has already been recoded. And so I'm just going to go and actually run the scale reliability analysis, and we'll just take a look, right, at what this looks like. And so I'm going to go up here to analyses, and we'll go to factor, right? We'll pick the reliability analysis. We'll, right, ask for a Cronbach's alpha, and we'll also ask for if a Cronbach's alpha if the item is deleted, or I'm sorry, if the item is dropped. And if you remember, 0.60 for Cronbach's alpha, we're willing to live with. Below that, we're a little bit worried. Even some people would argue 0.60, we're worried. But that as it gets higher, up towards 1.0, right, higher levels of Cronbach's alpha, and those are higher levels of scale reliability. This thing really seems to hang together, right, these items. And so I'm going to throw in, right, 1, and anytime there's a recode, right, I'm going to grab the recoded one because we already went through, right, and kind of did this process. And so instead of 2, I'm going to grab a recoded 2. I'm going to grab a 3, a 4. I'm going to skip the attention check, obviously, right, because that's one of those questions that was like, please select strongly disagree to this question, right? You don't want that in your scale. 5, 6, 7, and I think 8, 9. Yep, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are all recoded. Right, so we're going to dump all those in. I'm holding control, right, so that you can grab a bunch of different ones that aren't right next to each other. I'll throw them all in there, and then you get this very low number, right? 0.368 for the Cronbach's alpha, which we're not loving. And now we're like, okay, what is it, right? Is it that maybe there's an item that maybe doesn't fit? Did I do something wrong? And so if you look down here, right, the one that seems to be really sticking out, right, and if you remember, these things are basically like, if you remove the item on the left, here's what the overall Cronbach's alpha would be, right? And so you're looking for ones where the Cronbach's alpha is higher, right, to maybe sort of give this idea, like, if I got rid of this item, maybe I'll have a measure with higher scale reliability. And in this case, the one that really, there's something weird going on here for sure, because you don't want negative numbers. But it looks like number 2 is the one that if we got rid of it, right, it would jump from a 0.368 to a 0.683, which is a pretty big jump. And it jumps into an acceptable range, right? So we kind of want to take a closer look at this. If you go back, so one option is just to take it out and see it and then just kind of think, okay, that's probably it. But you should never just do it that way, right? You should always look at the item to see what's actually going on with it. And when you go back to the item, what it really is, let's go back to data, is that the student who recoded this originally noted that this should be recoded. So if you remember, I used the recoded version in the scale reliability, but when you look at this item, it should not have been recoded, right? So it says, when I'm in class, I participate in class discussions. And the 4, a lot like me, if a person answered it that way, that is higher levels of school engagement, right? And so it was just right, when you're doing this so many times, right? Sometimes you do these things and you realize, like, so in this case, I'd be like, oh, it's an incorrect recode. Let's just see what happens if instead of using the recoded 2, we use the regular 2, right? And see if it changes. And so I'm going to go back to analyses, factor. Hopefully it's still in there. Oh, it's not. SPSS saves it usually in there for you, like the default. So we'll go 1, we'll grab the 2, not this one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh no, what just happened? I think I hit shift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I forgot 11. Did that look right? 8, 9, 10, 11. And all this, right? Now the Chromex Alpha. Oh, I forgot to, let me click this too. Jumps to a 0.746, right? Which is, a good range. And if you look below, there are some others, right? There's 1, if you got rid of school engagement 1, it would jump to 0.781. If you got rid of 9, recoded 0.781. I'm going to just sort of leave this here for now and go to a different example and show you like how you sort of do a more fine-grained analysis, right? So if this were your measure, you would kind of take a closer look again. Most of the time, though, if this is a measure that's been, like somebody's already created it and there's a lot of validity already, like, it's been used before, maybe some validity already is associated with it, we usually don't try to mess with the measure, right? And if you saw our data set, this is a really small sample, right? There's 8 participants. And so there's not a lot of, right, the more participants you have, the more likely you are going to kind of sort of zero in on what's really going on, like in that sort of the real universe of stuff. When you have a small sample, it's really hard sometimes to, right, sort of draw general conclusions. So I'd be wary about messing with stuff, right? If the numbers are looking pretty good and the ranges are pretty close, I probably wouldn't do more with this. I'd probably take a look at these other items anyway, but anything that is within like 0.5 of each other, it's a measure people have used before, I'd probably be like, this is great, I'm sticking with this, right? Okay, so I'll go to the next one, but shout out if there's any questions about this one. But that was a simple fix. Those are the kinds of fixes you hope you can do. All right, the other one is a school agency measure. And, when you think about agency is really that idea that like you have this sort of the ability and the kind of motivation to like get things done, right? Like if you're agentic, you tend to sort of move toward things and then, right, push through them, and you do it yourself, right? It's not like somebody else does it for you. You have a lot of agency. And so these questions are things like, I let my teachers know what I need and want. That's an attention check. During class, I express my preferences and opinions. When I need something in class, I'll ask the teacher for it, right? It's basically you getting what you need. During class, I ask questions to help me learn. I let my teachers know what I'm interested in, right? So that flavor, right? Those 5. And so let's do a quick reliability analysis with these 5. And you do this for every measure, right? Anytime there's a multi-item measure, and this is what you guys are going to do next. You run through this and see what this looks like for all of them. All right, so we'll go school agency 1. Uh-oh, something got blurred in here. Let's see what happens. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Where the attention check question just disappeared to? It just kind of disappeared. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, let's click this. And so 0.701, that's actually pretty reasonable. But then when I look at the, if an item is deleted, number 3 looks like it would jump pretty significantly, right, to 0.771. So I will always just take a look anyway. And then when you make decisions, like I said, most of the time we're not trying to like mess with measures that people have created. But sometimes, right, and that's sort of the idea that, right, people create these measures hopefully with some sort of theory behind it, right? So they sort of based on a theory created these 5 items that seem to make sense, and now we have data to help us understand whether, right, there's, right, the theory that sort of says these 5 items should hang together, maybe whether, now we have the data to see whether it's supported or not. When you make decisions about whether you're going to change a measure and maybe not use all 5 items, maybe use 4 items or something for your study, it really is important to consider both, right? Not just to like look at the data and say, oh, the data say the convex alpha is going to be better, so I'm just going to change the measure, right? What we should do is like use the data to kind of help us think, is this something I want to adjust? But then go back to the theory, right? And sort of like make a decision based on like sort of a combination of both of those, right? Not just sort of just based on data. Okay, so number 3, let's go take a look at that question. And remember, this is about agency, right? Like, am I going to sort of take control of my own kind of what's going on around me and behavior, right? To then like help me or, do something for me. Which one is it? Let's go in here. School agency 5. And it was number 3. And this measure originally was created with kids, like younger kids. And this study that we did was with high school students, right? So just sort of keep that in mind, right? These are mostly 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And then listen to these kinds of questions, right? I let my teachers know what I need and want, right? During class, I express my preferences and opinions. And here's the one that if we took out would go higher. When I need something in class, I'll ask the teacher for it. And we went back and forth, and when we read this question, we thought, for a high school student, we could see how maybe like this particular question isn't necessarily in all cases indicative of like agency, right? That actually if you are a high school student, and like you need something in class, you might actually be more likely to just get it yourself, right? Than like ask a teacher for it. And it's also the case sometimes, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but if you're in a class where the teacher is not helpful, and in fact like the opposite of helpful, which some kids report, especially in high school, then like you would never go to your teacher, right? So like ask for something because that actually you'd probably be more likely to get it, right? Like, yes. And so a kid who's actually highly agentic in high school, we're not sure actually if this question really gets at it, right? And so when we talked about it, we thought for that reason, if our alpha goes up, if we get rid of this, and also based on sort of what this variable is supposed to be theoretically, like we're okay with dropping this question, right? Because we feel like actually what's left is maybe a measure that's actually more valid in terms of agency during high school, right? With high school students. And that's basically like, so we're going to decide to take this item out. And then when we write up our method section, we explain that, right? So we say the original measure had 5 items, but based on a scale reliability analysis and like taking a closer look at item number 3, we made the decision to remove it for these reasons. And then when you compute your total score, like you did with the self-efficacy, instead of using all 5 items, right, you'll just use the 4, 1, 2, 4, and 5, and create a mean score for that. And then that's what you end up using, right, in your analyses. This is the work that we're going to help you guys kind of work through with your own, right, projects. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. I think I covered all the pieces. Oh, and then let's see, right, if we take out number 3 from this, I'm pretty sure after we do that, there's nothing that's better. 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. Oops, not this guy. That would definitely throw it off. I'm pretty sure that will. 1, 2, 4, 5. Right, 0.771. Oh my gosh, right, and then there's another one, 4. But we'll stop here, right? But this is the process, right? Then you take a closer look. Is this something we want to do with? Do we want to change it? Okay. And let me stop the other recording.